What's up, you guys? I'm Dr. Danny. Today we are going inside the mind of Simon Leviev, the guy on Tinder that scammed so many women and spent 10 million of their dollars on luxury life across Europe. We'll talk about his life and then we'll go into what he has psychologically to finish up with some important points on Neuro Criminology. This is a real guy, these are real life events. So let's hit it. The life of Simon Leviev. He was born in Israel in a town near Tel Aviv by the name of Shimon Yehuda Hayut. He's the son of an Orthodox family and his dad is a rabbi of the town. But as a teenager, he was already committing crimes, mainly including check frauds. He's a bad apple. By 15 years old, he left his family in Israel and moved to Brooklyn, New York with family friends. And here is where his first crimes were reported. He was accused of misusing the family friends' credit card. That boy was sent back home. But back home, he started working as a babysitter and a handyman for the wealthy people in his town. He'd steal their credit card or their checkbooks. One checkbook he used to buy a Porsche. A babysitter driving a Porsche in a modest town? Oh, bro, you didn't think that one through. Another checkbook he used to buy lessons to learn how to fly on a plane. Well, one day when he was babysitting, the owner of that house decided that they would file a claim for a stolen checkbook. They didn't know it was him. All they knew was that their checkbook was stolen. But when they left the house, he was left with the baby and he didn't care. He left the baby alone in the house. This was 2011, the year that he first got prosecuted. So guess what he did? He forged a passport and left Israel. He would use different names depending on what country he was in. But the one that stuck the most was Simon Leviev. From there, he just kept on stealing. He started scamming girls and spending the money on luxury lifestyle. And the way that he would scam girls would get more and more elaborate throughout the years. Listen, he got caught in Finland and he served several years in prison there. And during that time, he just got more astute. He got right back to scamming more girls as soon as he got out of jail. And the way that he did it was through online dating apps, mainly Tinder. He'd meet women from there, take them on dates, drive them on Lamborghinis, take them to luxury hotels, fly them on private jets, things like that. Right from the start, he lured them into the fantasy that he was the son of the billionaire king of diamonds from the Leviev family. He would also constantly travel and he would give the excuse that it was always for business purposes. He'd then go on to say things like that it's hard to find a girl that doesn't just want me for the money. This way, it seemed like he was opening up and being vulnerable with them. He would then go on to establish a relationship, a close relationship with them, and tell them that they were his only love, that he wanted to marry them, that he wanted them to have his babies. And in the meantime, he traveled to many different countries doing the same thing with several different women. And to each girlfriend, he'd tell them he's on business trips. But eventually he would surprise them with random trips and over-the-top expensive dates. But here's the catch. When he felt that he had established a good relationship, he'd come up with a tragic story that his enemies almost killed him. He'd send pictures of his bleeding bodyguard and then he'd ask for sums of money, saying that he'd pay them back and that he just needed the money for the time being to close on some business deals. And that for safety reasons, he froze his accounts so he couldn't use the money inside of them. But the same story, he would tell it over and over to different women that he was scamming. And just like that, he'd use their money to fly and spend it on other extravagant and luxurious dates. And after conning close to $10 million and being wanted in Israel, Sweden, England, Germany, Denmark, and Norway, he was finally caught in Greece and extradited to Israel in 2019 to finally get his long overdue pow pow. He was sentenced to only 15 months in prison, of which he only served 5 months because of good behavior. Anyway, it was 2020, middle of the pandemic, when he was released from jail. Then, the Netflix documentary featuring the victim's account called The Tinder Swindler was premiered on February 2nd, 2022. And listen to this, he responded,
"They presenting it as a documentary, but in truth it's like a complete film made up movie. I'm the biggest gentleman in the world, and they call me the Tinder Swindler. I'm not a Tinder Swindler."
Okay. The Leviev family has opened a lawsuit against Simon to face justice and get the sentence he deserves. And the attorney has stated that this is only the beginning and more lawsuits will follow. But a guy like this out there, free, he's going to keep committing crimes. Here's why. He has Antisocial Personality Disorder. He completes the criteria. Criteria A. He fulfills a pervasive pattern of violation of the rights of others since 15 years old. And with the information that we know about him, he completes at least 3 of the sub-criteria. Watch. He fails to conform to lawful behaviors. He keeps stealing from people everywhere he goes. He gets arrested and prosecuted, but always manages to escape. And after escaping, he develops new plans, but in a way that it will be harder for him to get caught. Number 2, the lies. Listen to the WhatsApp messages he sent to one of the victims.
Don't send me lies. I know how to lie. I can teach you how to lie.
His entire life is based on a lie that he's the son of a billionaire. He changed his name to match the last name of the billionaire family, all so that he could scam women for sexual relationships and, most importantly, money. Now that we know of, he does not get into physical fights, but he is verbally aggressive when he feels he's not in control of the situation, or that his authority is being undermined. This is a narcissistic trait that we're gonna talk about in a bit. And the third thing that he completes in the criteria is the lack of remorse. He has stolen money, caused emotional and psychological trauma to many girls, and left them paying thousands of dollars of debt for years and years and years to come. And he doesn't feel any remorse. Instead, he denies it. He denies all of it despite all of the evidence from many different victims around the world. Now let's get into criteria B. He's 31, so he obviously meets the criteria of being older than 18. Now, criteria C, we have enough information to reasonably conclude that he did have a conduct disorder in his early days. Despite being raised in a moral and spiritual environment, he conned others. He stole credit cards and checks, and he would go to nightlife in Tel Aviv as a kid. In criteria D, unless he has schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, this guy has antisocial personality disorder. And real quick, I mentioned a narcissistic personality trait. I don't think that we have enough information in order to diagnose a narcissistic personality disorder. I will say though, people with antisocial and narcissistic personality disorders share the tendency of being superficial, exploitative, and unremorseful. Antisocials don't necessarily envy or are needy of admiration of others. And the other thing is, narcissists usually lack conduct disorder as kids, and they lack criminal behavior as adults. Okay, so antisocial personality disorder. It's a disorder more common in men. And for the most part, it's a lifelong disorder that has its peak expression in the 20s and 30s, but sometimes the personality traits remit or cool down after their 40s. What's the treatment? Well, no drugs have been found to be effective for antisocial personality disorder. The management is actually therapy, but the outcomes really depend on the individual's willingness to change. Listen, these people do know right from wrong. What they lack is the feeling that comes with doing something wrong. So the way they process it, for the most part, is that they don't have an emotional incentive to do the right thing. But if the person recognizes his wrongdoing and wants to change, they can be well into the path of transformation and becoming a responsible human being. Now, we're almost done with the video. We'll touch on some quick points of Neuro Criminology, but I just want to take this time to thank you for getting this far. If you like this video thus far, smash that like button. Please subscribe and please comment anything. It tremendously helps out the channel for me to keep creating content for you. So now, Neuro Criminology. Neuro Criminology is the study of the brain in relation to crimes. Dr. Adrian Rain is the big dude of neurocriminology. He stated in his book, The Anatomy of Violence, that criminals do have broken brains. Brains that are physically different from the rest of us. Okay, criminals tend to have poor neural circuitry in the prefrontal cortex, which is the area of the brain right in front of your forehead. When this area is injured, individuals are more prone to behaviors that are not socially or legally acceptable. This raises a ton of ethical and legal questions that I could make a separate video about if you guys ask me in the comments. But more than anything, I really just want to make this video to raise awareness. Why? Because it's important for you to recognize how these individuals behave to avoid getting caught up in business, personal, or romantic issues with them. Deceit and manipulation are the central features of antisocial personality disorder. If you feel anyone in your life with those tendencies, whether they meet full-blown criteria of antisocial personality disorder or not, walk away from that relationship. Again, if you liked the video, smash that like button. If you haven't already, comment if you haven't already. Any concerns, questions, suggestions, hellos, anything. If you want to check out any of my past videos, I made a video analyzing Encanto, another one analyzing the Netflix show with the longest name in history. And I'm currently working on an analysis of SpongeBob, so stay tuned for that. Love you all. Peace.